Hey there, welcome back to The Empowered Edge, the podcast where we cut through the noise, ditch the overwhelm, and unlock your best self through optimal health, a resilient mindset, and habits that actually last. I'm your host, Jenna Hostetler, registered dietitian, certified neurocoach, and proud obsessor of all things psychology and leadership. Every week, you'll get practical, science-backed strategies that give you the clarity and confidence to take action, break through barriers, and most importantly, own your health, own your life, and live with purpose. Hey guys, today we're diving into the world of gut health, detox, and what it really takes to support your body through healing. I'm joined by Rachel Kalmar, a holistic nutritionist who breaks down how to detox safely, keep your elimination pathways working, and why it's essential to have professional support when dealing with things like parasites, autoimmune issues, and chronic symptoms. Whether you're just starting your health journey or ready to go deeper, this episode is packed with insights to help you feel your best. Let's dive in. We have Rachel Kalmar with us today. Rachel is a holistic nutritionist who helps people worldwide to heal their gut and get their life back. Rachel, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So can you start off by telling us a little bit about your crazy experience with gut issues and what you finally found out to be the solution for you?
Yeah, I have been struggling for, I honestly want to say 12 years. And it just seemed like it was one thing after another. And I know a lot of people can relate to that. And I felt like I was going from doctor to doctor and trying out all these different medications and antibiotics and never getting any relief or even, naturopathic. I just felt like it was a lot of symptom management and there was never any deeper root cause treatment. And I feel like every joint, every organ was starting to feel something. It was like every day was a different symptom, which was very frustrating for me. And then I started working with one of my colleagues after I'd finished my program, and we discovered parasites. And it was weird because as I was going through the school and like learning, it just was something that was speaking to me so much, being like, hey, I for sure have this. Like I have every single symptom. Nothing has ever worked for me. And then we did a massive parasite cleanse. My hormones, I was getting a cycle every month again. A lot of my gut issues had really started to subside. Everything kind of slowly started to fall into place once I addressed what was going on underneath, because typically that is the case for a lot of people, and it does go misdiagnosed or undiagnosed because a lot of people just don't talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that you help people with is gut issues, but also chronic pain. And you were saying how, everything, like every day something new hurt. So kind of what is the connection there between gut problems and chronic pain?
So especially if there's a leaky gut type of picture, you can get inflammatory particles and compounds that are leaking systemically into the bloodstream. And that's what's going to cause a lot of this chronic joint pain that people are experiencing. I found the biggest help for me too was removing a lot of trigger foods like gluten and dairy, which are very inflammatory, and a lot of legumes, and really focusing on organic foods and getting rid of the pesticides, if I could, to the best of my ability. But really looking at any type of leaky gut pathogen, bacteria, even if your liver is overburdened, there's this little emergency hatch that can open. And again, you're leaking things back into the bloodstream. So that's how we're looking at gut in our body in terms of chronic pain, chronic inflammation too. And once we address that and heal things up, also remove a lot of trigger foods, I noticed with myself and with my clients that especially removing trigger foods, things start to slow down pain-wise, like within 2 weeks, which is incredible. So yeah, it can be a quick turnaround, especially if it's a food thing that's continuing to trigger inflammation in the body and pain. And then once we get deeper and get rid of pathogens or whatever's going on in the gut, and then we heal the gut, we notice a lot of relief.
That's incredible. You said 2 weeks. That's almost hard to believe.
Yeah, especially when you've been struggling for so long, but most people don't realize that half the things they're eating are contributing to their pain and a lot of their symptoms. So when you remove them from the diet and you can slow the inflammatory process down and bring down that inflammation, it's a big, quick turnaround. It's not, the be all and end all, but it's a really great place to start.
So when you have clients eliminate certain foods, and you mentioned gluten and dairy to relieve those symptoms, are you ever able to, have you found that people are able to reintroduce those again?
When I'm done working with someone and we're in the healing phase, I always say you're welcome when you feel it's right to bring it back into your diet, one thing at a time, very slowly, and see how you feel. No one's ever really let me know, so I can't tell you from experience, but I do often say, once things are healed and inflammation is really now at bay, we've gotten rid of what's driving the inflammation. If you want to bring it back very slowly and see how your body responds over time, I don't think there's a problem with that. Again, quality though is going to make a very big difference.
Sure.
Yeah.
So circling back to kind of the main topic of today and what you have briefly touched on, how did you start to look into parasites? I know you said you mentioned it a little bit in your schooling, but
Yeah.
how did you start looking into that? And how many people have you seen that actually have that problem?
So exactly what you said, when I was going through the program is when I was really first introduced to parasites. Well, no, when I had done stool testing and those practitioners were like, oh, they're not in your stool, so you don't have to worry about it. So I never really looked deeper into parasites. But then obviously, as I learned about it, I was like, no, something doesn't feel right about this. So it really was my school and then my colleague, my now colleague, who was very supportive and taught me a lot. Moving forward now with my clients, literally almost everyone I work with, I'm not even kidding you. Almost everyone I work with, we're dealing with parasites. And most people I'll be like, oh, have you traveled anywhere like Mexico? And that's even now a big misconception in terms of that's like the only place. Like it's very prominent everywhere. But when I ask them, they'll be like, oh yeah, it was like 20 years ago. And I'm like, okay, when did you notice your symptoms start? And then they're like, oh, okay. So as I learn more and I get to put the pieces together for people, I'm noticing that this is a big problem for pretty much everyone I'm working with.
That's crazy to me because, yeah, I mean, I hear parasites or worms and I think, third world countries, dirty water.
Yeah.
So the people you see, is it like big, like I don't want to say an infestation, but are there like different levels, I guess, where maybe you just have a tiny bit of a problem, or is it all like generally like if you have it, it's big?
I really think it's dependent on how long you've been struggling. I don't do any sort of muscle testing, so it's hard for me to know like for sure, or live blood cell analysis, but I do go off of symptom management and I do go off of, and if so, for an example, if someone does a stool test and parasites are present in their stool test, that's a really big indication that they have an even higher parasitic load than maybe I even thought. So anyone who's coming up with positive parasites on their stool test, they're loaded with them. And then for some, it's like, oh, I went away 3 months ago and I haven't been the same since. So it wouldn't be such a crazy amount of pathogens as someone who went away 20 years ago, who's been experiencing symptoms or went camping or whatever the case may be, like 20 years ago. So it really is dependent on the person and their immune system and how the body is able to cope with it, how stressed out they are, their liver, so like their liver health. So it's very individual dependent. But I've definitely seen clients with more and seen clients with less, and some that take longer and some that, move through it very quickly.
Can you explain kind of like the process of I go on vacation, I ingest something I shouldn't, a parasite gets into my system, then like what happens?
Well, if you're lucky, your body can take care of it.
Okay,
Um,
like how to take care of it?
the immune system and your lymphatic system, if everything is flowing and moving as it should, and your barrel isn't overwhelmed and you're not experiencing a boatload of symptoms, the body is typically able to keep them at bay and they don't become opportunistic and take advantage of you. For someone who's struggling with a zillion autoimmune diseases, or who's living a very stressful, high-paced life, or who has X amount of conditions already, they don't support their liver and their lymph is super stuck, then yeah, they're gonna definitely be like, oh, this is someone we can like latch onto and we can take major advantage of and wreak havoc on their body. I always say, if you're going to go to a place like Mexico, like Jamaica, anywhere where there's like high risk of contamination, is to take stomach acid supplements with you, because they can't survive the acidity of the stomach acid. And oftentimes we're all lacking stomach acid. And so we're creating this environment for them to thrive, whereas stomach acid is our first line of defense against pathogens. So if we're supporting our system with that when we eat, when we drink, when we do anything, we're not leaving ourselves as open to infection as if we weren't taking care of that in the first place.
Okay, so definitely kind of like let's say building up your wall, building up your defenses, so that
Yeah.
when the things get inside of you, I mean, they have no chance to survive. That's a really good tip.
Yeah. It's a really great way to, especially if you are dealing with a lot of things, like to be proactive about it. And just because, you can be as careful as you want, and it only takes one little tiny piece of food that's contaminated to throw you off.
Is traveling where you see most people getting it, or are there things that we're doing in our homes, eating out, are there things here in the US and Canada that can contribute to getting parasites or bugs or whatever?
If I told you literally everything, I don't know if people would believe me, but like literally everything. Having a cat, a lot of parasites, there's like specific parasites that come just from cats in their litter boxes. Having a dog lick your face because they're walking and God knows what outside, and they pick up things. And oftentimes as puppies, they carry parasites, and that's why we deworm them. Eating raw meat, raw fish, often very contaminated, and that's very much happening in Canada, in the United States. You don't have to go across the world for that to happen. Camping and being in lake water. I know they say grounding and getting in nature barefoot is very good for you, but again, you can pick up parasites anywhere. But depending on where your body is at is how well you're going to respond and be able to fight them off.
Sure. And I mean, everything you're saying is, yeah, I mean, it's living normal life. So
Yeah.
when your body's in its prime, it's probably, I'm going to guess, not really a big deal. It's when
Yeah,
it's being bombarded every day by everything else that then it can't handle this.
for sure. And like I said, if you're already struggling, and if we have suppressed stomach acid, which really is our defense mechanism, then you're setting yourself up for failure. That's often why I say, when I work with my clients, the first thing we address is stomach acid, amongst other things. But always, 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 what are we looking at here? How can we support that to make sure moving forward, A, digestion is better, and gas and bloating is better, and bowel movements are better, and B, that we're protecting ourselves from anything contaminated vegetables that we don't wash properly, or fruit.
Would you say that your stomach acid and those supplements that you were talking about for traveling, is that something that a person who, say they have a couple autoimmune issues, maybe they're always feeling sick, they know their body is not in their prime, is there something that they can take or do to kind of prevent that from happening, from getting those parasites in them?
I mean, I guess just practice safe eating,
Mm-hmm.
lifestyle things, like
Okay.
you're washing everything properly. At the end of the day,
There's like a lot of natural, antibiotics and antiviral things. I didn't know if there was anything like that you could take on a regular basis to kind of stave off whatever's growing.
you definitely don't want to take it for too long, and you most definitely want to work with someone, because you've got to make sure that things are in place, like your bowels are moving and your lymph system, the liver, like your kidneys, are functioning optimally before you jump into any type of cleanse. Because if you start killing things and your body can't handle them and rid them, you're going to actually feel much worse. But to be honest, anyone who's struggling with any sort of autoimmune disease is likely already struggling with parasites. That's probably why they have autoimmune diseases to begin with. So yeah, they would definitely want to put themselves through a cleanse, but supporting their drainage funnel and elimination pathways first and foremost before they move on to anything.
Interesting.
I know it's the things people don't talk about.
Yeah, it's just super interesting. Okay, so what are some signs? Are there any like telltale signs that someone comes to you and you're like, yes, you have parasites?
Yeah, rectal itching is a big one. At nighttime and grinding your teeth at nighttime. Parasites are nocturnal. They're most active at nighttime. So we see a lot of stress on the body. Or also that's how your body is handling stress. But those are the two huge signs that I look for. Any type of like eczema, rash, skin itching. If someone's told me that they have been to Mexico and haven't felt the same since, or they got sick while abroad, that's a big one for me. Or if they tell me that they're like a sushi lover or a tartar lover, that's another one. But yeah, any type of depression, anxiety, skin issues, grinding your teeth, rectal itching at nighttime, obviously digestive concerns. So, bloating, gas, diarrhea, constipation, IBS. That's all I need to hear for the most part.
Okay. So I've seen, it's been quite a while ago, but I've seen like these at-home cleanse things where like you take this supplement or you do this whatever procedure or whatever protocol, and you use the restroom and then you see like all this stuff coming out, and it's like it literally looks like a bag of spaghetti because like it's apparently all of these parasites and worms and stuff that was in your body and is now being eliminated.
Mm-hmm.
Is getting rid of it that obvious? Like, do you just see this stuff coming out of you, or like does it
No.
just die, or like what does it look like to get rid of it?
It takes time. You're not going to take a cleanse for 6 days and see something come out in your stool. And if you're not typically picking through your stool, you're not going to see it because if you're taking a binder, they're going to be bound. That's how they're going to exit. If you're doing something like an enema, a water enema, or a coffee enema, then yeah, you'll likely see a lot if you have them in the toilet bowl once you're done. But those like 6-day, 7-day, 14-day cleanses, they're not long enough. It typically takes 4 to 8 weeks to kill the big guys. And then there's also a lot of microscopic parasites that you won't see. So no, I don't, a lot of that is marketing. And like I had said before, you do those and you feel worse because you haven't supported your body beforehand. And so you didn't prepare for it properly. And you're going to have worse brain fog, worse headaches, worse everything that you were already experiencing because now your body's riddled with toxins. Parasites hold heavy metals. They hold mold, like they hold a lot of things. So when we kill them, all that's released. So we need to be able to eliminate them properly. So it doesn't happen that quickly, no. I mean, I will say I've had one client on our drainage funnel protocol. She eliminated the thin white thing. So it is like possible, but it's really highly unlikely just from what I've experienced in my own practice. I can't speak for other people, but another colleague of mine did tell me 4 to 8 weeks to really get those big guys that you're going to see if they're there.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, that something big and dramatic like that is, of course, going to be great marketing.
Yeah, exactly. They're all marketing.
So it sounds like, there's definitely a procedure and a correct way to get this stuff out of your body. Because like you said, if you're not doing it properly, you're going to feel so much worse. So if someone is at home trying to get this stuff figured out, is there anything that they can start with or start to do to kind of move that process forward?
I would definitely start with your elimination pathways. So making sure you're having a bowel movement at least once a day, supporting your lymphatic system, dry skin brushing, legs up on the wall, rebounding, jumping on a trampoline is an example of rebounding. Castor oil packing your liver and your kidneys. Those are other elimination organs. And you can even do your thyroid. So those are all lifestyle things you could do at home. Sitting in a sauna blanket is really great for detoxing chemicals and pathogens and bacteria. So there are a lot of at-home lifestyle things that you can do to support your body through it, and to prepare. So those are all things that, like, when I give a client a protocol, when we're addressing drainage funnel and elimination pathways, and then when we move on to cleansing, all of those are included in their protocols so that we make sure there's low risk of adverse, I wouldn't even say reaction, just, detox events. There is a word for it. I just know I'm going to butcher it, so I'm not going to say it. But short term is like a Herx reaction, which is essentially kind of when you feel worse because a lot of those elimination pathways aren't open or aren't being supported enough. So making sure that we're doing that, and that can be done and should be done prior to any cleanse. So those are what I would focus on.
Okay. You have several different programs that you offer that everybody can find on your website, but you do like a gut rehab, a gut reset, a gut detox. How does someone know kind of what phase they're in and where they should be headed?
It really depends on what you're looking for. Yeah. So my gut rehab program is like my extensive one-on-one that's about up to 6 months long. My 1 month reset, which I actually just launched literally last week, is for someone who's like really not ready to dive deep, but knows that they want to start somewhere. So essentially we do a lot of drainage funnel elimination pathway support within the 1 month. And then the detox program, which I'm not currently offering, is my little group program. So that really also touches on drainage funnel support, stomach acid support, diet, how to support our bowels naturally. But yeah, that's not something I'm currently offering. It's just really right now the 1 month reset and then the gut rehab. But they differ in terms of where you're at and what you're looking for in terms of support. Oftentimes we do the 1 month reset, and then we're gonna, if you're enjoying the process and you're looking for further healing, you'll buy into the gut rehab.
Okay, very cool. Definitely, definitely seeing how having a professional who knows what they're doing is crazy important when you're dealing with stuff like parasites and autoimmune and like these big issues. Because yeah, you can totally feel so much worse if you try to do it yourself and don't really know what you're doing.
Most people do. Most people do. And if you ever work with a practitioner who wants to start you on any sort of candida cleanse or parasite cleanse, and you're not going to the bathroom once a day, for example, or the liver is not being supported, and these things that I've talked about just haven't been touched on, I would like run away, because you need to do the nitty gritty before, or the stuff that you don't feel you need is often what you need most. And it sucks to know, like, I need to do a parasite cleanse and to not jump into it right away, but it's for your own good.
Yeah.
And like, there's no sense in rushing the process because it's going to happen. It just has to happen, and it has to be lined up properly.
Can we go back a little bit and talk about food? So I know you briefly mentioned like, washing fruits, washing vegetables, organic, pesticides, stuff in the dirt. So let's talk about just basics. If somebody's buying regular old produce from the grocery store, I feel like washing fruit and veggies is like something that nobody wants to worry about anymore. Like, oh, it's no big deal. Or why, how is that so important? And I've seen like fruit washes and things like that, or doing your vinegar and water. Like, what is the best way if you are buying conventional to get that stuff off the surface, and is cleaning the surface good enough?
I will answer that to the best of my abilities because I don't know enough. There is, I believe, an apple cider vinegar wash you can do, but now there's also a lot of the natural cleaning companies that are coming out with fruit and veggie washes. Do I think it's enough? Honestly, no. I feel like it's so sucked, like the pesticides are probably so sucked into not only the skin, but like the actual fruit itself. So I'm thinking of an apple, just because the skin is so thin. There's nothing stopping those heavy chemicals from leaching into the actual fruit itself, which you'll be eating. So I don't know that washing is enough for most things, but it's definitely helpful to get off any like residue. any chemical residue. So if you can and your budget allows for it, it would be really good to do organic. And if you can't do all organic, to follow the environmental working group, their Dirty Dozen Clean 15 list, and just making sure whatever you're buying that's organic is what's the most heavily sprayed crop. But there is definitely something to be said about rinsing your fruit and veggie. It's better than nothing.
Yeah,
for sure.
definitely. I'm thinking like, berries and grapes and things. Well,
Things that are directly in contact with the soil. Yeah, they're going to be,
yeah.
I mean, apples are from a tree, but things are still sprayed from aerial spraying.
Well, and like, berries, like I'm thinking like raspberries or blackberries have those little tiny crevices in them. And
Yeah,
like a million people have touched the grapes by the time you eat them.
I know.
So, yeah.
So lovely.
Washing them and yeah, just basic, washing fruits and veggies, cooking stuff to the proper temperature, all of that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What are some, or maybe what is one of like the biggest changes that you've seen in a client who's come to you?
Oh my goodness, like a complete,
Everybody?
well, some happen quicker than others, but yeah, for the most part, I mean, I've had clients who just struggle throughout, but literally a complete reversal in their symptoms, coming to me like zero energy, so fatigued, everything they eat, even air, makes them bloat. Which I hear all the time. Like, I don't have to do anything. All I have to do is drink a glass of water. All I have to do is wake up in the morning and I'm 6 months pregnant. And I can relate to that. And it's very frustrating. So supporting them in that journey, and oftentimes it happens in our first protocol together, just simply supporting those elimination pathways and supporting stomach acid. It's a missing piece of the puzzle for so many people, which is why I do the 1 month reset, because I feel like sometimes just getting that little reset is all someone needs to just feel lighter again. And that's all they're looking for. But it makes a big difference when you get that underway. And yeah, honestly, like when I say complete reversal, like feeling like their life has changed because they no longer are struggling just by doing those simple things. And then obviously when you get into the parasite cleansing or the candida cleansing, or SIBO or H. pylori, any of those bacteria and infections, once you get rid of them, everything changes for that person.
Can you talk a little bit about the candida cleansing and what that looks like, or even how, again, that kind of gets into your system?
I honestly do candida cleansing very similar to how I parasite cleanse. So again, because you're killing and things are being released, you want to make sure that every elimination pathway and organ that's involved in that pathway is functioning properly. So we spend a lot of time making sure everything is open and working, and then we move on. Again, I do it all through, for the most part, supplement based, making sure we're staying away from foods that are going to feed candida. So that's going to look like sugar, because it's a yeast and it thrives on sugar. One way that can happen is just an imbalance in the microbiome. You take a lot of antibiotics and you don't replenish, and these bacteria and yeast are pathogenic, and they're opportunistic, and they're just going to grow and proliferate at a much faster pace than the good bacteria. So that's one of the ways, just an imbalance in that bacteria. And then diet, like having a really high sugar, high processed food diet. You're feeding, again, there should always be a little bit of candida in the system. That they have like a very good symbiotic relationship, but if we keep feeding it and it grows, that's when it becomes a problem. So diet definitely plays a massive role in that.
Okay. So I kind of want to, I don't know about recap, but from my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong,
Okay.
if someone's looking at trying to, kind of get this stuff under control, number one would be to look at what you're eating, clean your food, cook it properly, maybe get rid of the sushi, get rid of the raw meats, look at your environment where you are exposing yourself to these critters, making sure that you have good digestion, that you're eliminating things well, that you're drinking a lot of water probably, that you're moving around so your lymphatic system is doing its job and not getting stuck. And then just continuing to eat good food.
Yeah. I think you really did say it when you said supporting digestion. So I can say it till I'm blue in the face. Like half of us or more, 75% of us are actually low stomach acid than too much stomach acid. So really making sure that we're supporting that for optimal digestion and making sure that if we are exposed to any type of pathogen that our body can take care of it on its own. And yeah, just good practices, good home practices, good eating practices, and just supporting your body the way it needs to be supported.
So that it can handle whatever your environment exposes you to.
Correct. Because I don't want people to be like, oh my God, I can't do anything. I'm walking on eggshells. I don't know what's going to happen. But yeah, I don't want you to be scared. Just so long as you're like really supporting your body in whatever you're doing and, giving your liver a little bit of love. It doesn't mean taking a graveyard of supplements, but why don't you castor oil pack every night or every other night to really bring down inflammation and get it? It's like detoxing pathways working properly. There are little things you can do every day or every night or every other night that will support you in that.
Speaking of those castor oil packs, and I know you mentioned like that supplement again for stomach acid, are there any certain brands or things that you recommend for people or things to look out for if you're hunting for that type of a product?
Yes, I love Queen of the Thrones for my castor oil and castor oil packs. She makes it so easy. She creates the pack for you. All you have to do is put the castor oil on and you wrap it around your liver, which is going to be on your right side under your breast, where the rib cage is. That's where you're going to put it. You could do your pelvic region. She has a thyroid pack as well, plus her organic castor oil. So she's just made it so easy for people to do. Like there's no excuse anymore to not do it.
Any final like thoughts, words of wisdom, tips, advice for people listening?
I want to reiterate not to be scared of anything because I feel like I probably scared a lot of people. And also, if you're listening to this and squirming, thinking like every symptom I mentioned you had, like don't be scared of it because it's all, everything is solvable. And if you're listening to this and you are struggling with IBS, that again, there's a light at the end of the tunnel for you. And it's not about managing your symptoms indefinitely. It's about finding someone to help you find your root cause so that you can overcome your symptoms. And it is possible for you. So that's what I will leave you with. That you can live the life you want to live.
I love that because some days it feels like that's probably not possible.
Yep, I've been there.
Me too. So one quick thing, real quick. So when you're going through this process of eliminating all the gross goobers inside of you, like what does that actually look like? Like, do you notice that it's gone, or like do you see it being eliminated, or you just notice your symptoms going away?
It'll be both.
Both. Okay.
Yeah. It depends on if you're the type of person that likes to check your stool for any pathogens, or if you're just like, I want to have a blind eye to it and I don't want to look and I just feel good and that's all that works for me. I've had both types of clients. A lot of them like to see because it's like, oh my God, this is what's been causing me so much pain for all this time. And some of them are like, I don't care.
Just go.
Yeah. Just it is what it is. I feel good and that's all that matters.
Okay, fair enough. So where can people find you and learn more about you?
So my Instagram handle is Livia Wellness. And then my website is liviawellness.com. And those are going to be the two best places to connect with me.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. This was, it's something, like you said, not a lot of people talk about, not a lot of people know about it. And just to know that can be a root cause of so many huge chronic conditions that still, has a real solution. You just got to find the right people.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I'm very grateful.
It was fascinating to talk with Rachel because it is so easy to forget everything that we're exposed to in our daily lives. I loved when she said, I don't want people to feel like they're walking on eggshells, which really captures how overwhelming it can be when you consider toxins, parasites, pesticides, and everything that we come in contact to with our food, water, cleaning supplies, food storage, almost everything. And as I've said before, it's tempting to go for a total overhaul when we learn these things. But Rachel's point that the stuff you don't think you need is often what you need the most is key. And that's why I focus on the basics. Small things like washing produce often matter more than a pantry overhaul. If you're already all in on organic, grass-fed, and optimal choices, that's awesome. But for most people, bridging the gap between where they are now and where they want to be with simple daily changes is what makes the biggest impact. I hope you found this conversation with Rachel helpful. And remember, it's the small, consistent actions that set your body up for success. So grab something you learned today and take action, stay empowered, and I'll see you in the next episode. Okay, now before you pop off, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the one episode that could change your life. And give us a 5-star review if you learned something new today. If you want to check out all the awesome free guides, templates, and resources I've given away on this podcast, go to theneurodietitian.com/resources. You can grab anything you want, but only if you'll do it. Because information without implementation is worthless. And here at the Empowered Edge, we're action takers, not excuse makers.